Hi, guys. Okay, we're going to give this a whirl. Hello, Jeremy. Hello, Boumbi. Boumbi. I hope I got that right. Well, good evening. And I'm a minute or two early. Hello, Pam. You made it, honey. You made it and got here in time. Oh, so y'all heard the news that the Queen finally passed away, right? Wow. She's been the Queen my entire life. It's going to be a change to think, oh, there's a King of England now, you know. Hiram, hello, how you doing? So that's going. I know that's going to be a big change over there. Good evening, Gary. Good evening, John. Hello, John. How you doing? Um, with the Queen's passing away, that's going to bring some upheaval over in that part of the world. They're going to have to work it out and figure out who, what, when, where, how, and etc. So I'm sure that's going to be a news cycle thing going on for quite a while. Diane, hello. Ben, Kevin, Robbie. Glad y'all could make it. Okay, tonight, what I wanted to talk about, and we're going to do a 1 hour tonight. And I apologize if I have to end quickly because we went to an Italian restaurant last night and I tried something new that had this spicy Italian sausage in it. Yeah. And we will say that it's one of the best cleaners I've ever seen, boy. Woo! So if I have to suddenly end quickly and get out of here, it's not because I had a problem. I got to go, you know. So just apologizing ahead of time. So let y'all know what's going on. Let's see. Content of character. Good evening. Ted Fisher, Ford Tractor Fanatic. Awesome. My Florida Oasis. Hello. True Mana. True Mana. Awesome. I usually don't eat hot stuff. You know, I know I'm odd. Okay, guys, let's just be straight up. I don't drink coffee a lot, which is super rare, especially in my family. My dad would drink 3 or 4 pots a day, you know, and I don't drink a lot of coffee and I don't eat a lot of spicy food. Occasionally, I'll have something on what you real spice eaters would go wimpy stuff, but I've just never been one that wanted hot and spicy food. It doesn't tear me up so bad. It's just that I didn't want it. Now, from a bushcraft standpoint or a going standpoint, absolutely. That's one of the things you should carry in your kit is spices of some kind. Because when you're living off the land and you're eating squirrel and rabbit and fish and etc., it tastes the same, you know. And after you've been eating it about a week or 2 weeks, you'll start wanting some sort of rub or something to sprinkle on it to change it up, make it. So that's one of the reasons that spices were just so in demand in the past. And quite often, people coming out of the wilderness, first thing they did was buy spices because you might only come out of the woods once every 6, 8 months. And so things like pepper and salt and paprika and all kinds of stuff to just be able to change it up. And that's a big thing. And so, yeah, I do carry such stuff and I will add a little pinch here and there. But for the most part, I'm not a big spicy food eater. Daniel, I have got in the Blackhawk prototype and I am in the process of field testing it right now. We scaled it up a little bit bigger. The original idea I had was just a little bit too small and compact, and I liked it, but really that was for me. And so, in talking with Jay and looking at it and being realistic, you know, it needed to be a little bit bigger. And so, not everybody's living down here in my South where you only need a bag this big. You know, you're going to need to carry a little bit bigger blanket or a little bit bigger sleeping bag or a little bit warmer clothes, even in the summertime. And so he was right, and we talked about it in depth. And so we scaled it up. So I hope this coming week I'll be ready to present it to you guys. We're working on it right now. It's going to be a very, very limited run because of supply and demand right now. But I will be getting back with y'all this coming week on that. Okay. Thanks for asking. I can't trust someone who doesn't require coffee to live, Tony. I know. That could end friendships right there. But I've said the same thing to people who say I can't stand barbecue. I'm going to question whether or not we should be friends right here. You can't stand barbecue. Okay. Randy Branch, hello there from Pittsburgh. I guess MT Woods Runner, Mountain Woods Runner. Maybe one day you can do some critter cleaning classes. I've thought of that, and that's, it's one of those things where you're kind of limited on YouTube and what you can do without triggering the fun busters. And so channels that do that and show how to process game and stuff like that, a lot of times they come under fire. Now I've thought about doing it, because I do online classes. I do my percussion revolver and my master woodsman. I've thought about doing that and then doing like excerpts, edited pieces for the general population, and then say if you want to see it from beginning to end, pay $1 or something like that. That way, hey, you asked to see it, and then I can send you the link of the video of the whole thing of actually processing. I would feel kind of safer with that because I could say, hey, they asked to see this. I was not just throwing it out there where your kid flipping channels found me gutting a deer or gutting a hog or something and was traumatized for life. And so by doing it, you ever seen a horror movie? Gutting a deer ain't nothing. Friend of mine, his teenage daughter, she loved horror movies. I mean, time she was 5 or 6, she just loved it. She wanted to see the most gory, slashing gore, which he loved it because that was his thing. He grew up being that way. And then there was a great family controversy where a cousin was spending the night. And so Ashley went and popped in her favorite horror movie, and little cousin lost her mind. They'd never seen anything like that. So it's kind of like that spicy food. It's kind of a what's your tolerance level. And so for me to do processing game and cutting sheets and stuff, I've thought about doing like fishing and then just show the catching the fish, bringing out the fish, and then cut from the time that you got the fish time cleaning up the final fillet and that type deal. I may do it. It's going to be a pain in the butt, but I may do it in the future. Okay. Daniel, anytime. Ken Uber, hello, Nevada. Robbie, what size bushcraft blade would you recommend? Depends on your hands. To me, okay, somewhere between 4 to 6 inches, depending on the job. Okay. Again, there is no perfect knife. There is the perfect knife for this job, and it sucks for these 30 or 40 others. So a small knife is great for detail work, and I want like 2 to 3 inches for that, and that's for getting right here. I mean, like I happen to have that handy WC9 Mini. That's just a great little up close, short detail work. And if I'm like cleaning squirrels or small game or something like this would be perfect. Crafting, cutting up fine little things. This is great. On the other hand, a full-size belt knife, like a 6-inch blade on up, has its purpose. And so for a general overall everything woodcraft knife, my knife I think is like 6 or 7 inches, something like that, 5 to 6 inches. And that's what I recommend for my hand size and how I control it. Now, my good friend Dan Lutz, as big as he was at 6'8", he was taking a kukri and was sitting there using it like he'd use a small paring knife because he was so big and his hands were so big. So that little bitty knife would be like it'd be like an X-Acto blade in his hand. So it fits your hand. And I think that's a better way to approach it. We'll just use this one for an example right quick. That fits all the way across my hand. So when I close it up, now notice the shape here. This means that whatever position I'm holding to use this knife, it fits in my hand very comfortably. Okay. The handle isn't too short. And that's the thing. If it was like that short, oh, it's cute, but it'd be hell to hold on to. The little Eldris, I had one of them for a while, and the handle's just too short for me. It's so small and round. I feel like I'm doing like that with two fingers. I can't get a good grip on it for any kind of real work, and so I wanted a little longer knife. Um, if you're doing bushcraft stuff where I'm going to be making feather sticks, shaving, I want it to be as wide as my fist, the handle at least. And you don't want, if I, let me see, this old Granddaddy Barlow right here, I'll show you right quick. See how narrow that knife is. All right, when I close my hand around it, it's good this way, but it's too narrow this way. And that means that when I grip a hold of it, it's like you're not holding anything in your hand. Your fingers, my fingers butt in. And so I can only get so much grip on it without having to bear down, trying to squeeze the flesh of my hand and stick out and grip it more. And so this would be very fatiguing for me to do in certain jobs because of it. The way it's flared, it won't come out of my hand that way, but my hand would slide up on it pretty easy. So I'd never want to stab something. So again, what is the knife? What is the job? And what do you I hate to just say it that way. It sounds like I'm, trying to dance around your question. I'm not. I'm just trying to be honest with you that try the sizes and go, I like this handle, but I don't like the blade. Okay. Remember how big that handle is. And so the next knife you're looking for have similar size, similar shape handle. Or I really like this blade. This handle sucks. Same thing. And you will narrow it down till you find what really, really works for you. And then when it is, keep that sucker. Keep it well edged and protect it. Don't be beating and banging on it because if it's one of them knives that's hard to replace. If I damage or destroy it, work on that. And that's the way to do it. That's how to get a knife to fit your hand. Your hand, it should be full enough so that my hand can kind of relax and hold on to it to do the work. So I'm not having it grip real tight. And it's not rubbing hot spots, which means those are sharp edges or whatever that someplace that it rubs a blister. And when you're doing a lot of things in a row, like I put up a wiki up one time, and I was doing a chest pull, and I took about 60 small willow-like poles and pulled a point on them so I could stick them in the ground and fold them over and weave them to form the shape, put the tarp over for the wiki up. And by the time I got done cutting all of that, I had like 4 blisters in my hand. Wrong knife handle. It looked good, but in repeated use, sweat, heat, it rubbed blisters. Hope that answers your question. Hello, Willie Jilly. Awesome. And Jason Ludwig. Hello. It wasn't that big a deal, really. That fawn or deer was just laying there, and he thought he was invisible. And if the sun had not been on him and me looking through that hole, I probably wouldn't have noticed him, to be honest with you. But once I did see him, I knew how to come up on him. Now, my grandfather, he was just a ghost. He was like a real small, skinny man, and it's like he just like smoke floating through the woods. It's like he wouldn't disturb a leaf going by. And I have seen him several times walk up to a deer and be at like 5 feet, the deer facing away from him asleep, and him walk up on it and be able to just reach down and lightly pet the deer while it's asleep and, not wake it up. So, yeah, I'm a nothing compared to that man. Well, hello, Jason Ludwig. Welcome to the thing then, if you're new here. John Kennedy, the Eldris is too short for the handle to put the handle back into the plastic sheath. Yeah, I agree. It looked good. I got one to try it out, and it just didn't fit me. Hello from Montana. Okay, let's see. Do you use char cloth? Yes. If you're going to do flint and steel, absolutely char cloth. In the buckskinning days, that was our primary way of building fire. Was you had your flint and steel, and a hunk of char cloth. And most people make the mistake, they use too small a piece. And so I recommend when you're getting started out, something that's really good is old blue jeans, 100% cotton blue jeans that's been wore till they're falling apart. Cut them in about 4-inch squares and then char them. And that is big enough and thick enough. You know, the char material is not only because it's thin, that it is char material, but how thick it is how well it holds the coal as well. So the spark hits, and if it's too thin, it just burns straight out, and it's like tissue paper. If it's thicker, it's kind of slower and it's deeper, and it makes a taller fire, so to speak, and it makes it easier. And I'm not a big advocate of carrying flint and steel. If you want to carry char cloth, fantastic. It's a great tinder catcher. And just use a ferro rod to hit it because it catches sparks, right? But flint and steel generates somewhere in the 500 to 700 degree range spark. And the spark off a ferro rod is a couple thousand degrees. And so if I'm going to make sparks to catch on this material, why not just use something that generates a whole lot more heat? I don't have to do it in living history anymore. And I did it for 20 years, starting all. You always had to start your campfire with flint and steel. You know, any kind of fire like that had to be flint and steel. And so I got a lot of practice with that. But at the same time, a piece of char cloth and a ferro rod, boom, you got hot coal that you can just put in something and blow it into flame. And a 4-inch square piece is big enough, it'll generate enough heat. But if you got a semi-questionable tinder bundle, you got time to dry it out. That blowing, it glows and brings up, you're drying out your tinder. And then you can give it a few seconds. I like to get it in position, blow, and then sit there and spin my hand in a circle. And yes, I did see that in the movie The Mountain Man with Charlton Heston. He got that from the 1980 Green River Rendezvous where they were filming at. And so he watched somebody start a firelight, just keep spinning, let the air, and then come back and blow again and get it to burst into flames. But most people make the mistake, they use too small a piece. Punk would agree. Slingshot Warrior, hello. James, hey, you made it. Awesome. Punk wood is the same exact idea. And I know that Dave Canterbury, who's also a buck skinner like me, he's a big advocate of char cloth and making char cloth in your canteen and whatever. And I will give him that yes, you can do it, etc. I, on the other hand, come from the school of just you got to have a fire to make char cloth. Okay, I've got a fire. It's pretty easy in the woods to find punky wood. So as I go along, I may collect that ahead of time. See a tree that's kind of rotten or whatever, and this is the same punky wood that you'd want to make char with anyway. And then I put that into my fire, let it burning good and hot, let it burn several minutes, and then I move it over and bury it in the ash and the cinders. Bury it, and then move the fire on top of it. So there's no oxygen. And so I'm creating char using char wood, and then whenever everything's cooled down, I dig into my fire and I pull out char and put that in the tin and use it. And it'll catch a spark just as well as char cloth. In fact, in many ways, better. And I have several times gone up to a fire that people thought were out and took my knife and just blew on a piece and scraped it a little bit and then hit it with a ferro rod and throw sparks into that burned piece of wood, and it would catch. I start blowing, it goes to glowing again and keep going. Suddenly got a half a log just glowing like a cigar, and put your tinder on top and blow and ignite it. We were at Georgia Bushcraft the first year I went, and it was me and Mike Denny and several others, and we had a breakfast fire that had gone out at probably around 7:30 in the morning, and we had not rekindled that fire. And when we came back to the fire pit at about right dark, it was probably like 5:30 or 6. And they were talking about we're going to start over. I said, no, you still got fire there. I put my hand over the ashes and cinders and I felt warmth. So I got a handful of a bird's nest, fanned it, and the ash came off, and there was my spark, my coal, I put it on top and blew and rekindled the fire. So we didn't have to restart the fire. That char end can be carried, smothered in a tin or something. And then when you get there, just throw sparks on it. It'll catch and burn just as good as anything. Hello, Tom Ritter, Prepper Camper. Hello there. Hello, Chris Harris. Groovy Rasta. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's see. Is WC Knife still making the Blackbird? Yes, they will make them there. You order them and they do it. If you'll contact Randy Smith at stitchgear.com, he's a dealer for William. And so what William's doing is he's mass producing runs for the dealers. And so you order 50 of this blade or 60 of that blade or whatever. He's not doing custom runs anymore. That way he can streamline production. And I'm doing 50 of these blades and 20 of those blades and etc. And you can contact Randy, which is a dealer, at stitchgear.com and tell him I'm wanting one of the Blackbirds, and he will set you up and William will create it and get it to you. Now, it's going to be a wait time. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's the best knife I've ever had, guys. No BS or nothing. I told William that when we were at Blade Show. I said, he's my friend. But if we stop being friends or whatever, this is my knife. I'm sorry. You're going to hear about me and this knife for the rest of your life. It's Black in that knife because that's my knife. And the Blackbird is a refinement of that prototype. Whenever William was talking to me about the prototype, how would you change it? I'd narrow it just a little bit, whatever, and that's the Blackbird. So the Blackbird is the improvement. And so he'll get them. You just got to go through a dealer and get in the queue, so to speak, so it pops up. Slingshot. Anyone hunt with a crossbow? A lot of people down here will hunt with crossbows. For many years, it was illegal in the state of Alabama, but now it is legal. And so crossbows are really good for those, especially the people that just don't have the archery knack. You can take a crossbow and put a aim point on it and have almost rifle capabilities at 25 yards, 30 yards. You can get some bow hunking power boys that's got Jay Skinner. Thank you very much. That generate a whole lot of power. The heaviest bow I have ever fired was I think it was 180-pound draw that somebody made and brought to an event. It was just a pull the sword out of the stone thing, see if you could pull it. And so I could pull, but I was in my youth and I was a steady little sucker, and I could do it. But I know several people that had been archers with bows and have transitioned to crossbows because they could be sitting on a stand or whatever, having it cocked, ready to go, and make it just easier for them to use. So they make very viable hunting tools. They really do. Hello, choir boys, Cutley Outdoors. He's in the house. How you doing, sir? Glenn says, love your use of the yo-yo. I appreciate that. That was an old trick. There was a place I was going to that if somebody showed up to know it, so I ran a yo-yo and put the yo-yo right here by me, and then ran the line down the thread. And so when it broke, it just went like tick. He only went up about that far, but it was enough that I was listening for it. And when I heard that tick, it woke me up, and I knew there was somebody down there at my fishing hole because we'd put out trot lines, and people were stealing my trot lines. They were coming during the night and raiding it and getting my stuff. And so I was camping down there, and I didn't want to be at it. I want to be a little bit behind it so I could catch them in the act. And so I rigged that up. Whenever they tripped that line and went tick, and I let them get down there, let them get good and wet, and then I showed up. So yeah, surprise. Oh, here, I appreciate you doing this live Thursday nights since Dan. I know. This is the Dan Lutz Show, and I am Blackie. I'm sitting in for Dan. Uh, I miss that man. I really do. He was such a great inspiration to me in so many ways. Did you have deactivated the Pura Gonant in the forest? I'm sorry, Bumpy. I'm afraid I don't understand that one. I have a cold steel cheap crossbow. Yeah, cold steel makes a decent one for its uses. You know, what is, guys, I come up poor and I've seen the worst pieces of junk. It's like, wow, and harvest effectively. It's how much in here, your skill, and how much you're willing to work with. And then on the other hand, I've seen guys with high dollar equipment that was, wow, that's the price of a car, and that everything you got sitting there on that thing, and they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So it's as much the guy and his dedication to his gear as it is the gear, and especially when hunting is it concerned. Covert Ranger, hello Blackie. Hi from Tennessee, hello back. Yeah, drawing a bow can alert a deer tree, the sound of it. And that's where crossbow is a distinct advantage. It's already cocked, ready to go. Okay, let's see. Anything else? Do I still use Rough Rider knives? Yes, sir. Sure do. Um, Favorite pocket knife. I mean, they're just handy. They're good price, good quality for the cost, etc. And so, yeah, Rough Riders are decent knives. Yeah, you can go buy the cases, but you're going to spend a lot of money. And to be honest, I don't think you're getting any better a knife, especially for just a working man. I want something in my pocket for use, and if I lose it, I don't want to be out $70. Um, I was gifted this knife, and this is a Rough Rider, and this is one of their selects. Man, ain't that thing pretty? And it's just as good as any knife you ever asked for, holes in the edge, etc. So, yeah, good knives. I've got a tub over there full of pocket knives, and it's like this one. You know, I feel guilty for not carrying them sometimes. Okay. Trapper Dan, hey, brother. Glad you made it. What did I do with the thieves that were stealing my trot line? Let's just say I gave them an education on how not to steal stuff. Um, when you rebel yell real loud and you make enough noise, and you can make people jump into a river real quick, start swimming, especially if they weren't expecting somebody up behind them to scream and holler and, you know, look kind of crazy with things and stuff. Yeah, he dove right off that bank. Uh, can we still do Stinky hits the fan gun videos? Okay, here's the thing. I do have a lot of knowledge in guns way beyond the percussion. I've built custom guns for a lot of times. I know a lot about ARs. I know a lot about 1911s, 9 millimeters, etc. I don't know a lot about the Glocks and things. They're wonderful guns, but it's got no soul to me. And so I do know a lot about that, how to run a 12 gauge pump, things like that. And maybe in the near future, if things lighten up, I would be able to do a channel like that. I may do a separate channel just to do reviews of things like that, because you hear all the time of people that get up there and they just get nothing, and their entire channel gets banned and wiped overnight. Boom. over nothing. And so that's why I've been a little bit leery of it. And that's one of the reasons I stuck with my percussion revolvers to begin with. One, it's a great woods gun that I enjoy using, and two, it didn't attract that much attention. So, and I've had people say, move over to Reddit and etc. I might do that this winter. I might set up a channel on Reddit, let's say, for guns or for whatever, and just do that. You know, as a kind of a hedge bet between the two, you know. True Mana, do you use a machete? I have used a machete a lot, both for working and for actual bushcraft, etc. And I did a video. If you go back and look in my, I think it's in the knives or whatever, but I did one not terrible long ago where I showed the modifications I did to a machete, where I put a 90-degree spine here so I can do certain things. I do the edge of my machete like I do a kukri. That first 3 or 4 inches right there at the handle is razored to be like a knife, and then it becomes a different angle grind around, so it's more of a chopper, and the very end is almost blunt, because that's my bust it, hit it, grounding. Why even try to sharpen that? Because it's just going to get dull and beamed up. And then the back I ram the edge so I can use it as a draw knife. I've used a machete quite a bit, and would not feel in any way unarmed carrying a machete in the field for setting up bushcraft shelters and etc. or doing stuff. It's just a little long and bulky. I prefer a kukri, but my second choice would be a good machete. Tom Ritter, yeah, the Rough Rider trapper knives are good. Do I do any archery? I don't anymore. I used to. For many years, I hunted with a bow. I had a hickory bow that I made, and I did quite a bit with. And I just don't anymore. It got to where I'm kind of odd, guys. They ain't figured it out. One, my left eye is my dominant eye. And so for those of you that may not know how to figure out which of your eyes are dominant, and it's like you're left-handed or right-handed, well, you got a dominant eye too. What you want to do is you want to look at something in the distance, way over yonder, not like 5 feet from you, but like other side of the parking lot, you know. Come up and do like this and make a little bitty hole right here that you can just see through like that. Okay. So I look at that window, that statue, whatever, and bring these up at arm level like that and look through that tiny little hole right there. Then keeping my eyes focused on the statue, slowly bring this back very, very slowly until you touch your nose. Whichever eye is looking through the hole, that's your dominant eye. And that's the eye you should be using for shooting. I'm right-handed, dominant left eye. And so I shoot a handgun right-handed. I shoot bow and arrow right-handed. I shoot rifles left-handed. I shoot shotguns either hand. I can shoot pistols either hand, either way. But the thing about it is it just got where it's just, you know, I'm instinct shooting. I'm not really looking down the sights. I'm just being the arrow, so to speak, and shooting. And it just got where I didn't enjoy it as much as I did. I'd rather go out with my old antique guns or my old cap and balls and stuff like that and go hunting as opposed to archery. Jeremy, do you still have your Tom Brown knife, that Chinese clone? Yes, that was gifted to me by a good friend. She was a student of mine named Kayla, and she really liked the idea of the Tom Brown tracker. And I had handled one, but had never spent a lot of time with it. So she bought that Chinese ripoff of it and said, try the design. And I had to modify it a little bit, but yeah, I still have it. It's a good knife for when I go fishing. It's really good for cleaning fish. I don't use it for a shelter knife, but man, I can process catfish and stuff. That thing, you know, that belly does a good ulu light, and it's just good for processing fish for me. Okay, let's see. Shore Sharp. If you do make a separate channel, do not use the same email as your main mail. Trust me that. Okay, thank you for that advice. Thoughts on the Fisker brand in general and the Fisker Bush Axe bill hook specifically. Fiskers are actually fairly decent for the metal, for the price. You know, the bill hook, if you're in a area where you're going to be dealing mostly with small stuff. I know a lot of you guys out in Texas and out west and stuff where you're going along creeks and stuff, and they're willows and small diameter relative softwood. Bill hooks are great. You know, grab it and pull. Very effective. A ditch blade does a great job. For a lot of times, I had a cut off ditch blade. I had a double bit axe that was cut off. I carried for a couple of years. Used to call it the battle axe. But one of those bill hooks or something, Fiskars is not a bad tool. No, it's not a high dollar. And no, it's not as durable as certain things. But it's a good value for the money. It really is. Prepper Camper, like your stealth videos, there's more coming. I'm working out, like I just posted the one about doing a cache. And so there's going to be more stealth videos coming up. I've talked a little bit about personal, how you go in and out quietly, how you don't attract attention. Now I've talked about leaving stuff, out there, being able to cache gear, whatever, for whatever purpose. We're going to talk about hides, where I'm going to show you how to make quick blinds. I'll tell you right quick, a little trick I like is where planted pines or places where you got a lot of pine straw. I'll take two long thin sticks and slide them underneath the pine straw and just lift the pine straw up like a carpet, and then put a couple of white sticks to hold it up. Well, from where you're looking, you just see pine straw. It looks like a hill or a mound, and I can slide under that. I only got to make it about 18 inches tall, and I can slide under that and look through the pine straw and see you, and you don't see me at all because I'm in a perfect hide, and I've done that right at the top of a hill, slide in and lift it up, and then put like a piece of log on one side and a piece of log on the other side. So when you're looking at it from way over there, it looks like just pine straw going up on the log, and I've got a gap like that big in a window, and I can look in the valley or whatever. You can't see me. I'm not silhouetted. Little tricks. We're going to do some more of that. Just hang on. We got it coming. Randy Stinson, can you throw knives? I did have throwing knives when I was younger. I used to throw a kukri, but don't do it anymore. It was something we did around camp for challenges and stuff like that. We had throwing knives, and we put up a playing card, target, and see who could cut it in half, who could whatever. A kukri, when you know how and get one that's fairly balanced, you can throw a kukri and it'll stick. So yeah, good buddy of mine, he could throw a machete and do it, but hey. Mount Ware, hello there. BC Gerbs, hello, welcome to the channel. I agree about throwing knives is a nice pastime, and I just get the throwing knives that are designed for it, solid. Never throw a real knife. I would never ever throw my WC knives at a tree. Not that I don't trust it, but why do I want to abuse it? There's just Murphy's Law. The second it leaves your hand, Murphy's taking over. And break, snap, hit, beat, bang, whatever. Just go get them solid billet knives with a semi-point on them. If you want to practice that, it can be a fun skill. But, and I've known guys that were pretty dangerous. If they ever decide they want to throw a knife at you, they can do it. But again, start with them. I wouldn't throw a real knife. Earl Verizon, hello. Yes, I agree, Trumania. Bow skills. And I had someone, a group I was hired to come talk to about prepping because they expected the world to go to poo-poo. And it was a church group. And they wanted to know what that I thought would be very viable, very helpful. And I said, every person needs to have personal skills and you will naturally just be good at certain things. So if you're looking for a community or a group, it is better for the person that naturally is good at hunting, naturally that's good at fishing, etc. They should be the one doing that. That lady that's just a born natural with babies and kids, that should be where she's supported, and go with that if that's what she wants to do. And so find whatever. But one of the things they taught, and I said, you have that skill, then you need a marketable skill, something that I can barter. And I said, get books on making things out of PVC pipe. Because once you learn how to read the numbers on the side of a pipe, you can make bows, you can make all kinds of useful items out of PVC, and there are going to be tons of derelict buildings with PVC pipe in them. A video channel that I got a lot of inspiration from was called Backyard Bower. And he was, I believe, a native Hawaiian gentleman that lived in Hawaii at the time, and he was taking care of his kids. I guess his wife was at work or whatever, and he started doing a channel. And so he started making PVC bows and decorating them and making it look like the bow that Legolas had in Lord of the Rings and things like that. And you can make a 60, 70, 80 pound draw bow from a Schedule 80 piece of PVC pipe. All you need is an oven mitt and a heat source. He heat it up on a campfire and shape it. And so I said, learn how to make stuff out of PVC pipe, because guns and stuff will get kind of hard to get ammunition. But a bow, hey, I can figure out how to make arrows. Little duct tape, little piece of a road sign. I can make a little sharp point on the tip of it. Straight sticks. I can make up a functioning arrow that'll work relatively. Save the really good arrows for when it's serious. But the bow part, being able to, when you're making a bow from hickory or some other native material, that's a lot of skill and there's a lot of failure rate till you figure out what you're doing. Learning how to walk into a derelict old industrial complex and find some Schedule 80 pressure pipe and make a bow that you can drop a white-tailed deer with. You can drop a cow with it. It's that strong. We made one. I went and got some Schedule 40 pipe. And for the neighborhood kids, one Christmas, I made up about a dozen bows for all the neighborhood kids. And we had little archery things. This was back in the early 90s. And we would shoot in my backyard on Sunday afternoons. The kids would show up with their bow, and I'd give them little pointers and stuff for them to shoot. And that's about a 20, 25 pound draw bow is a Schedule 40. A Schedule 60 is a 30 to 50 pound, depending on how you make it. Well, that right on the borderline of being huntable. The Schedule 80 is 60 to 80 pound draw pull. You can hunt whitetail with that, or hunt anything with it. So just learn how to make it and shape it. All you need is a heat source, and shape it with an oven mitt in hand, or make up a jig where you heat it and bend it and let it sit, and it'll solidify in just a minute or two, and string it. Wrap the handle tape, put a little thumb out there for an arrow rest to sit on, and you've got a bow. So very usable, very important skill. That's a marketable skill, because all these other guys, they don't know how to make a bow. Hey, I got bows I can trade. Those tires there that you're not using, I could use them on my truck. I'll trade you a bow. And so it's a very marketable skill. OCD Hunter, thank you very much. Jackie Burns, thanks for coming to the channel from North Mississippi over there. Sling bows, yes, they are pretty cool. I remember when Canterbury started doing those. And you get the black bands, I think it is, and cut the tubes like an inch or inch and a half short, and that's like a 50 pound draw. Yeah, you could use it. That'd be a great stealth bow, wouldn't it? Talking about stealth stuff. Fold it up and put it in a cargo pocket and just carry the arrows, and don't make a lot of noise. So that is not legal. You cannot legally hunt with that, like I said. Jackie Burns, I've actually done a couple of ones on how to sharpen knife, and to be honest with you, to be straight up and honest, what I recommend you do, if you don't have any knowledge or skill, whatever, go to Smoky Mountain Knife Works online and look in the knife sharpening. And there's things that you clamp onto your knife and has a guide. And the whole thing about in sharpening a knife is keeping the same angle every time you go. So it isn't wishy-washy, it's the same angle. It's kind of like focusing, like you'd focus light, you focus edge the metal. Okay. And for people that have no idea and are really struggling, I have seen that make a huge difference in them. If you were sitting here with me, absolutely, I'd show you how to sharpen a knife, but it's really a hands-on skill. The only thing I can convey with my video is really the overview, because it's a touch, it's a feel, it's the sound as the knife goes across the material. This is a sharpening block I've been playing with here lately. It's got all kinds of things on it. It's got a strop. It's got a fine diamond hone. It's got a ceramic. It's got a coarse diamond hone. It will lay down onto a table, and so you can use it. And then you use these guards are at 20 degrees. So you would take, and you can get these at Walmart. It'd be on a card. You lay the knife up there on that edge. This acts, and that shows you the angle, and you maintain that angle all the way. And then you lay this up onto that side, using this to tell you what angle to be at, and just maintain that angle all the way across. That's pretty easy to do, but that's the whole thing. Again, how I wish we could come up with some way where I could just push a button and 20, 30, 40 years experience of doing something, just transport it to you and you could do it. It would make life so much simpler. And I would love to do that. I really would. Earl, yes, okay. Verizon met you at Surplus Place. Have I ever used a traditional rock sling? Yes, actually I did as a child. I watched on at the church, they put on a thing on David and Goliath. And this live action thing, production, and this young man got out there and used a sling. Well, the movie went on a little bit about David and him practicing. And so after I got out of church, I think I was like 6 or 7. When we got home, that was the first thing I did, get me some string and a piece of an old glove and try that out. And I got where I could hit a tree at the back of the yard, which is probably 60 yards away, pretty regular. It's a skill. It's a hand-eye coordination skill, but it can be very viable. Now, in stealth, being able to be right here and you're over the hill or out of sight right up there, close, but right there, and need to be able to put a rock into that thing and slowly wind it up and fire it off at high speed. So 60 yards down yard, you hear as it ricochets down to them trees. It's a good diversion. Also, kicking deer up out of them bottoms. I'd walk along the tree line and fire rocks down at high speed through them things to see if I could spook deer, spook game to get up and run, you know. And of course, I had a gun if they actually did run. But it can be a very viable skill for a lot of things. Hello, Pink. How you doing tonight, brother? Hello from New Hampshire. Glad to see you on here. Sage, the longbow. I agree. Just a simple bow is one of the best ways to go. And a longbow is better. The shorter the bow gets, the harder the pull has to be to make it work, where the longbow is relatively easy to come back and fire, where those short power bows, we used to call Cheyenne bows, you've got to pull a lot harder to bend them way back, and a lot more wear and tear. And so a simple longbow will normally last you. I finally got rid of my hickory longbow that I made many years ago to somebody that wanted it pretty bad because they wanted to hunt traditional. But and I just never made another one. But it's a good skill to know, but understand it's going to be a high failure rate. Now, Jamie Burley, let me point him out on this. He does a seminar at Campcraft and things like that on making bows. And so if you want a hands-on experience, I've sat there and watched Jamie. Jamie's good people when it comes to making that type of stuff. And so you might want to contact him, find out if he's going to be holding a class anywhere near you, and go and have him show you how to make a bow and get the skill in. It'd be a real asset to learn how to do it. William Fuller, the original folding saw. Man, you way back yonder, ain't you? Oh yeah, I had a whatever that Wonder Saw was, and then I got a Fiskars that I carried for a long time, and then I upgraded from that to a Baco Laplander, and then I upgraded again to a Silky Saw. And I want to get one of the big Silky Saws just for the kit. Because if you ain't toting gas in a chainsaw, a big Silky is a pretty impressive thing to cut big wood with. Dan Lutz had one that when he opened that thing up, it was over 4 feet long. And we were going up to logs that were as big, round as a basketball, and sawing all the way through that log in about a minute and a half. So yeah, very viable as a bushcraft set. Randy says, any tips for cleaning water in the woods? Yes. If you're looking for a water source, surface water is usually contaminated. Okay? Just assume it is. When you look at a stream, understand what you're really seeing. What you're really seeing is you have a water table, and where the highest flow is of that water table, because rain falls, it comes into this mountain, this rock, whatever, and it starts percolating down through it, and then it's going to hit a non-permeable layer. In English, it can't go through it, and then it's going to just flow downhill until it finds a way to get to the sea. Okay, so it's going to go through the ground. Wherever the highest flow rate is as it's going through the ground starts wearing on the roof of it. Well, that as it wears out right in here, let's say right through here, as it starts wearing out, the ground starts sinking down because the water is wearing away the roof. And it does that until it breaks the surface and you have a trickle. Well, this starts coming out. So if you see a water source on the surface and you have a bank like that, okay, that tells me that is a water table, and that means that I can go uphill right here and dig straight down and hit this water table. But this water that's flowing between these 2 points, it's contaminated. But if I go up 10 feet up here, which maybe only be like a foot or two higher up in depth, and dig straight down, the water moving through the ground all through here, a half mile wide, 300 yards wide or whatever, is not contaminated. That water's pure. It's been filtered for 1,000 years going through the ground. And most things that are bad in the water need light or need oxygen. And if it's sub-ground, it ain't getting either. And so right here is the water level at the edge of the stream. 3 feet. 2 foot, 3 feet this way, dig straight down, make a coyote well, dig a hole the size of a basketball in the ground, back up, wait. It'll be cloudy and muddy, right? As that water is flowing through, it'll clear it. Might take 30 minutes, but in 30 minutes you come back and that water's clean. And you've got a very good chance you can just drink that water. Now, this does not take into account pollution, heavy metals, mining, tillings, all that stuff. But um, the squigglies and all the bacteria and all that, they're not going to be in that water because they need oxygen and they need sunlight. And they don't get that underground. And so it isn't that the water's running in this bowl right here. That water is actually, you're seeing an entire water table and you're looking through the skylight, which is the stream into it. Now, like I said, if the banks are like that, what if the banks are like this and nearly vertical? That's a runoff. That's different. That means that this water running has cut these steep, deep banks like that. And there isn't a water table here. This is water's running from A to B. And that can be where it is a water table up here, but then it gets into a non-permeable section and it flows across top and then it hits soft ground and it cuts deep. So you got a steep bank. So if the banks of the water are steep, there probably is not a water table there. You're just getting this water running between it. It's like a escalator. It's taking it to where it goes back in the ground. Okay. However, if it's nice gentle slopes like that, it probably is a water table and I can go over and dig down and have fresh water without having to boil it or anything. You know, if I've got the time to build a coyote well. Hope that helps you. Mick Jam, squirrels are just a rat with a good PR man. Yep, and they taste good with gravy too. Greetings from Central Ohio. Thank you very much, Joseph. I'm doing as best I can. Take it day by day. Slings, Edgar saying that you couldn't get good with them. It takes a lot of practice. And it's not precision. There are those individuals who can get as good as anybody with a 22 one. And the vast, vast, vast majority of people can't. It's like I say, you know, everyone can sing. Doesn't mean you want to listen to them, but everyone can sing. Well, some people have a natural talent for singing, just like some people have a natural talent with a sling, a bow, and a spear, a slingshot, whatever. And so realizing that I'm not that good with the sling, I relegate it to other things. I use it as a noise maker. I use it as a way to lob a rock a whole lot farther than I can throw it by hand. I use it as a way to maybe deter something. Let's say I've got a big hog or something down here in this bottom, and I don't want to get down there near him, but I want to piss him off enough that he'll come up here, you know, into the open where I've got a clear shot at him, taking a sling and out, firing it down in there, so it's smacking them trees around him and everything. Doing the same job I'd be doing if I was shooting a gun, but I'm not wasting ammunition, right? Would be a great way to attract his attention and get him to come up there, make him mad enough he'll come up without me having to waste ammunition and keeping me up here on the ground I want to be on. I don't want to get down there with him because he's got the advantages down there. I make him come up here where I've got the advantage. When did the skeeters lighten up in your area? Usually, October is when they kind of die down. When we get the temperature gets down in the 60s at night, it really pulls them back down. Right now, which is next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday down here in my area, they're projecting the lows are going to be like 62, 63. I am hoping to go camping, guys. I'm hoping I can make all the little boxes get checked so I can run out to the lake and camp out and take my canoe out and do some stuff. So that's the idea. But usually end of September, 1st of October, when the nighttime lows drop down like 62, 63, yeah, come on down because you'll have a few mosquitoes right at sundown, and then within an hour of sundown, they're just gone. Once it drops below 70, they just disappear. They're not interested anymore. Edgar, the Caltech CMR and 22 Magnum. 22 Magnum is a fine cartridge. Not to be taken lightly. 20 Magnum is very viable as a hunting arm. And we'll just leave that at that. Mike W., welcome to the channel. Thank you for coming in. Sage, simplest crossbow. I agree. Don't overload it. Don't overthink it. When you start putting all the bells and whistles and all kinds of stuff on, you're just asking for problems because you become too dependent on it. A simple sight. Remember, you still should be using crossbows at the standard archery range of 25 yards max, like 10, 20, whatever. Don't be trying to use it as a rifle at 100 yards because you put all the horsepower and all that, he's still gonna duck the arrow. And you ain't gonna find that arrow, that bolt when you shoot. So it's far better to just have a simple one, get really good, realize what your distance. Now, let me pass this on to all of y'all that when I was teaching shooting sports, and I used to compete at long range competitions out to 1,000 yards, and people would ask me, what would be my setting for 500 yards or whatever. I'd say, okay, look, have you practiced at 500 yards? And this is true of any kind of range. So here's what I tell people to do. Take a paper plate, regular old, like we eat off of a paper plate. Put that onto a cardboard box, put a dot in the middle of it. Magic marker. Set it as far out as you want to start. I don't care if that's 10 yards, 50 yards, or 200. It's up to you. Get an old kitchen timer. Set it to 2 minutes. Put 5 shots on that paper plate in 2 minutes. Don't worry about a group. Just hit the paper plate. That's it. You did it? Wonderful. Back it up another 10, 12 yards. Do it again. Back it up. Do it again. Back it up. Do it again. And when you get to where you can't do it in 2 minutes, you can't hit it, you're sweating blood trying to make it happen, you have reached your effective maximum range. The gun's capable of throwing a projectile 1,000 yards. That crossbow is capable of slinging an arrow 100 yards. But you have to practice to do that. It stops being sights. It becomes Mark I ballistic computer up here to make your adjustments. No matter what we're talking, bows, archery, crossbows, slings, spears, high caliber guns, whatever. What is your maximum effective range? And get out there and find out. And so I had a good friend of mine, great target shooter with a handgun. I mean, awesome. Beautiful little bullseye groups, always was tearing out the center ring. And then I put a kitchen timer on him and I put the target up at 20 yards and he couldn't stay on the paper plate because of the pressure. That's what that tick, 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 that's pressure. Because when the game animal presents itself, it's not going to stop and go, okay, I'm here, George. Remember, he don't want to get shot. And so you've got to be quick. And so you've got to get on target quick, do all your breathing, do your releases, and etc. for hunting. This is true in target work, anything else. And so put the paper plate on a target, put it as far out, and put the kitchen timer on it. Put your shots. I don't care if you're using 22 long rifle, 22 Magnum, whatever. And that's how you find out what your effective range is. And I know good friends of mine that you'd take them to the target range and put up a bullseye target at 50 yards and it'd be a coffee can sized group. He's not a great target shooter. I'll also tell you how many trophy deer that guy's taken at it, that he'll nail a deer to dead run. Because he's such a great instinctive shooter. And he learned hunting rabbits and squirrels and small game with 22s when you're trying to feed the family, where a miss is a bad thing. It ain't just, oh, dadgummit, I missed. I mean, we ain't eating tonight. So they got good, really good. But he was not a target shooter. He was an instinctive hunter shooter. And he knew that if it was within 75 yards, it's dead. He's just going to hit it. He was not a long range shooter. He never saw it. I'll tell this story right quick about Davy Crockett. And everybody knows Davy being the great adventurer and everything else, and the big political, etc. Well, he had retired from politics, and he's touring around, and he's trying to, find a new career or whatever before he ended up going to the Alamo. And at one of the places he went to, of course, the locals were so overjoyed that this huge celebrity had showed up, the great Davy Crockett. And so they wanted to have a shooting match between Davy and their best shot, which is this young man. And so history tells about how they put up a end of a log at 100 yards. Well, one, Davy's not a frontiersman anymore. Davy's been a congressman for years. Two, his eyesight ain't what it used to be. Three, he was a woods hunter, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards. 100 yards, he probably hardly ever shot at anything 100 yards, and so you're kind of way out of his comfort zone, even from his day. And so he told the young man he could go first. And so the young man stepped up, and with great deliberation, he brought his rifle up and he shot dead center bullseye at 100 yards. Perfect shot. Davy walks up and he's got his rifle sitting up on his shoulder, and he makes this very heroic stance, and everybody's looking at him, and he suddenly just dropped the gun. Just the second it become horizontal, he fired. Bang! The judge went down, he looked, and there wasn't a hole in it. It's like clean miss. And clean miss. And everybody went like, Dave went, hold on a minute. He hands his rifle off, and he goes walking down there, all authoritarian and everything. He goes up the log, and he's looking like everything, got his hands up on the thing. And he finally slides the log off on it, and he's doing it light. And said, bring me an axe. And they brought him the axe, and they split the stump. And when they split the stump, there was Dave Ball in the same hole as the young man. He put it in the same hole, and everybody was cheering and going on and everything. Later on, Crockett admitted, said, dang right, when I walked up, I shoved the bullet in the hole. I couldn't hit that at that range. And so he just went up and stuck it in the hole right quick and made it look like it. He knew that young man was going to beat me, forget it. Because he was a snap shooter at running deer and stuff like that. He was not a target shooter. And so get really good. Find your limitation and go with it. Oh, HT Ryder, I eat off 30-inch paper plates. Uh-huh. Yep. Shrink it down a little bit. Very, Sean, pressure builds diamonds. That's very true. If you've got a skill, adding a time limit puts pressure on you, will help you streamline and find what is wasteful, what's wasting your time. Cut to what is the truthful. This is what I need, how I need to do, how I move, etc. And that will speed up your skills and make life a whole lot better for you in the long run. And my good friend Roger, who was my student, and I had spent a couple of years teaching him. And when you asked Roger, he said, I don't know nothing. And then we started going to events, and he was encountering people that knew less than him. And suddenly Roger was amazed how much he knew. Because they were asking him questions, and he knew the answer, and putting him under pressure where we'd done bow drill and stuff like that. I did video one time with bow drill. And off to the side, I put a kitchen timer. And I said, we're going to do this in 10 minutes. And I'd set it down on a metal thing. You could hear it going tick, 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 tick. And that put pressure on him. And he did his bow drill and did it on time, But it makes a difference. Putting somebody under pressure will make a difference. Crossbow bolts blowed off target at 80 yards. Absolutely. Arrows are very efficient short range weapons, and the farther you go, it becomes a stunt. In war where there were 100 guys shooting and it was raining arrows, yeah. But in realistic, when you shoot at something way out there, Murphy is guiding it beyond. The second you let go, Murphy takes over. Breeze or whatever will just, you watch it go like that. And we used to try to do 100 and 150 yard shots at hay bales, across a pasture or something like that with bright orange arrows, and lob it up and have it come down behind and try to hit the target behind and stuff like that. Yeah, that's great fun, but it's not really practical. 0 to 25 yards. And what I was taught by my granddaddy, if you cannot see the white of the eye of the target you're trying to shoot, you're too far away. Deer's got a great big old eye and a little bit of white around it. So you're within like 20, 25 yards. You can see the white and you're within range of a bow. What is the best of the hat to protect the head? I like crushable felt. Straw hats are good in the summertime because they let air through, and they protect the head pretty well by that. I like the crushable felt because it is flexible. It does in the summertime. I'll just go ahead and wet it and put it on my head, and it's a very evaporative cooling effect of the head. It's also fairly tough, and like I've said down here in my videos several times, I have turned around, guys, and been just eye leveled to a venomous snake where it was in a bush for whatever reason, and being able to do that, and get the hat down to give it something to strike besides me to do that, is a good way to do it. I don't like the plastic type hats. They're normally very hot, and just they never fit right to me. And so that's what I prefer is a crushable felt. Hello to Michigan. Welcome. Hello, Willie Jilly. Thank you for showing up. Yeah, you got to shooting 80 yards. Yeah, you're lobbing it. It stops being archery and it becomes artillery. Lob it in. Oh, lawn darts. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, the kids today will never know the great terror we had of those steel-pointed lawn darts. When we were kids, we'd throw them straight up in there and run around in circles and see if you got hit or not. Oh, boy. I just cringe thinking back on some of the stuff we did. We played softball at night with a wooden croquet ball and an aluminum bat. And it done got so dark, you just hear it rolling through the grass and you'd have to run over and find it, And I remember it got so dark you could just barely see where the batter was because there was something in the distance, And the pitcher threw the wooden ball, and this big burly guy, he hammered it. Bang! And the third base guy went down. Just whop, thud. So yeah. I think it cracked one of his ribs when it hit him. So yeah, we did stupid things as we were kids. And got the scars to prove it. Hello, Dutch. Thank you very much. There'll be more of the stealth stuff coming up. Shore Sharp, thank you very much. Now, talking about gear, okay? Talking about the gear that you're carrying, etc. Hunting. If I'm going to decide to hunt, here's the best way I can teach you with archery, and it's how I learned stump shooting. I would take wooden dowels. I would whittle and put nocks on store-bought nocks. And then on the other end, I'd take an empty 38 special brass and fit it over that wooden shaft. Just a little bit of glue, it'll stay. and then put fletchings on it, or I used to just take duct tape, stick it on there, and cut it, bend it. Okay. You walk along a trail or whatever, and you stop and say, that pine cone, and you aim at the pine cone and you shoot. They don't go very far, but you learn hand-eye coordination. Don't have sight pins on a simple bow, and so I learned it instinctively. And so it was hit that tree, hit that stump. We used to call it stump shooting, and just walk along, and you just great when there's a pair of you because you challenge each other. And it'd be my turn, and we'd walk along. We might walk 2 or 3 minutes, and I go, stop that pine cone. That pine cone might be 20 yards away, laying in the road. And so you shoot, I shoot, whoever gets closest. Now it's your turn. And we might stand there and pick a target, or we might move in a little bit further, whatever, and you go, stop that cattail at the base of it. Try to hit it at the base. You know, and that gives you a lot of real world practical instead of being on a fixed range of it's 10 yards or whatever. And it trains your eye to kind of mentally calculate what you got to do. So stump shooting is a great skill. And until you get decent with stump shooting, I would not recommend actually hunting for game, because you don't want to wound game. You want to be very ethical about it. If you are going to harvest game, turn them off like a light switch. I believe in massive overkill. I do not want this animal to suffer in any way. I want to just turn him off. And that was a respect that my grandfather passed on to me, that you must respect this animal. And if you disrespect it, that get you slapped in the back of the head. You didn't throw a deer up on the hood and tie it and come through the middle of town to show off. Oh no, you get granddad slap you in the back of the head so hard your cap will fly off. Oh no, that's being disrespectful. It's a sacrifice of this animal to feed you and your family. So be respectful. And if you approach hunting that way, of being as respectful as you can and not wanting to in any way cause any suffering of this, you'll be a much better hunter. Pass up the iffy shots and go for the best shot. And if you get good in that, then when times is hard, and if you miss, we're going to go hungry. You will have the skills and the ability to nail it and do what you got to do. So it's like anything else, driving a car, whatever, it's a skill. So, Gerard Jones, thank you very much. OCD Hunter, when's my next group gathering? I will have if you're talking about my camp out at the lake that I do every year, those are in the spring, normally in March, April, and I normally announce them in December. I want to call it based on how our weather is going. Okay, I know that sounds stupid, but hold on a minute. The target I'm trying to hit is us to have a camp where, one, it's still cool enough at night that you can enjoy a fire, warm enough during the day that you don't have to have a fire, and yet early enough that the mosquitoes haven't hatched out by the billions like they do in my spring. And so I try to gauge it. If we're having a wet, cold winter, I back it up into April. If it's a relatively dry, mild winter, I move it up into March, because we had down here in the South, it's summer, poof, 1 2 hour period of fall, poof, winter. Winter lasts about 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and then poof, it's gone, and we go from heater to air conditioner in 1 day. And then within just a few days of that time period, a trillion mosquitoes seem to hatch out, and it's just no fun to be in the woods. So I'm trying to gear it, and I've been very lucky. 1 year I got it a little off, and it was a little too cool, but it'll be sometime in the spring, and I'll announce right after Christmas when the gathering is going to be. Now, for others in here, I will be going out to the lake in October to camp out. It is not a gathering. It's just friends showing up. And so me and some friends are going to go out there and camp out in October. And other than that, it's just whenever. I'll go out there once I hope, like I said, next week, I hope to go out there and just spend a day or so camping out, just me. If some friends want to show up, more the better. Fantastic. But my official gathering will be in the spring. Hope that answers your question. Yes, Edgar, duct tape fletchings. Cheap, quick, easily replaced. Yeah, very wood dowel, duct tape, 38 brass on it, knock on the back end. Great practice arrows. Great for that type of stuff. Sean, did we grow up together? Probably. A lot of us from that area, we all have a lot of similar. We chewed a lot of the same ground. I put it that way. Po' boy adventures. What's the most effective way I found to keep bugs away? Okay. If we're talking about natural, okay, not store bought stuff, American Beauty Berry is the best bug repellent that I found in nature. Second is wood smoke. Normally, when you come out from your civilian world and you go out, you smell funny in the woods. And the mosquitoes just seem, the bugs just seem to be attracted because you smell good, and that's what they're designed to do. Find flowers, find scents. 90% of the stuff out in nature, how it finds its food, its whatever, is by scent. After you've been out there a couple of days and you've sweated and etc., and you get a little bit funky, the bugs and stuff start leaving you alone a lot, and you notice it less. So wood smoke and American Beauty Berry, the two. Pine, I have taken pine needles before and crushed them up and rubbed that on my skin. That has given some relief. And a layer of mud. Man, when they're just eating you alive, I'll just get up, take canteen water, make mud, and put mud on you, put dirt on you. And that seems to help mask the scent, believe it or not. I remember coming out of a fishing trip one time, and when I paddled the canoe up to the landing, and I got out, and everybody was standing there because they were swimming down on the river. Everybody's looking at me funny, and I finally asked the guy, I said, "What?" He said, "You been eating a lot of carrots?" No, I had taken red clay and rubbed on me because mosquitoes were eating me alive. Most of the time they don't bother me, but by God, that day they were. And even the Deep Woods off was not cutting it. And so there was a orange streak right there on the bank. I went over to it and I got that, and I covered me with that, and that helped. Dirt helps. Yeah, Forest Gnome 55 Pink. Yeah, hunting was never a sport for us. It was serious business. Yeah, it was feeding the family. It was like going to the store. Pantera, were you a Boy Scout? I worked with the Boy Scouts. Um, as a small boy, I attempted to become part of the Boy Scouts, and that did not work out. Um, and so I didn't get to do that. But I had lots of friends who were Scouts. And then when I was grown and doing living history, I got pulled into the Boy Scouts and started working with them for skills and things like that. And for like 10 years, I was part of a group that put on events for Boy Scouts, historic events and things like that. I did. Uh, I went and became a shooting sports director, went to National Camp School for the BSA, and was certified as a BSA archery and shotgun and rifle instructor in BSA. And I was on the roundtable committee here in the local, and I was inducted into Order of the Arrow. And so for 10, 15 years there, I worked with the Scouts pretty extensively. I didn't get to be a Scout, but I helped them with merit badges. I worked a lot to teach Scout masters, and that's what I did on Roundtable Committee, where you'd have a Scout master that he really don't know how to do a fire, and he, he's a great aviator, great pilot, He's from Cleveland. He doesn't have a background in the outdoors, and suddenly he's a scoutmaster. And so I taught him how to run a Dutch oven, how to build a fire, how to pitch a tent, how to put up a tarp, how to set for storm. And I did more teaching scoutmasters really in the long run than I did the scouts, other than being a shooting sports director. Sage, I've always wondered why people in the South, wherever for that matter, don't bury their houses more often. Like bury stuff around the house. Yeah, there was a lot of that whenever I was coming up. There was mason jars and stuff. That's the money was put into mason jars and buried in the yard where the lid was on the bottom, and you could dig down and get to it. They didn't trust banks. There was all kinds of stuff that was cached in the ground, so they couldn't be stolen easily, and things like that. And it's a good way to hide stuff so people can't find it. Ronald Green, have I heard about it? Yes, Dan's daughter was talking to somebody about bringing Dan Lutz's Skinner back into production, but it kind of stalled out somehow. I don't know the full details on it. The last I had heard was that they had contacted someone to produce the knife and that they had agreed to it and that things were in motion. But I'm going to tell you, one of the things is every one of them Lutz Skinners was sharpened by Dan Lutz before he sent it to you. That very thin blade is something that you just can't hog off and sharpen like that. And so finding a knife maker that has the ability to sharpen such a thin blade effectively and quickly and cost efficiently, that's going to be the thing. But if I hear anything else on it, believe me, I will do a video on it. You know, I want to promote Dan's legacy. I've got it. I've got one of his. My wife's got one of his, you know, and I've used that for skinning game and stuff like that. She uses hers for her little thing. I came in there one day and she was sewing and she was using the Lutz Skinner as a seam ripper, you know. So, yeah, if I hear anything about that knife, I will get to y'all as quick as I can. Yellow birch helps, yes. Also, a smudge from pitch, pith pine, and that's a pine tree that's rotted down to where it's like a sponge. You can make that smolder, and that will help get rid of insects and stuff around camp. So I'm talking about using yellow birch as an insect repellent, but I've done it with putting that in, making good smoke, and that's helped a lot. After the 29 crash of the stock market, yes, they did. Like I said, I grew up where a lot of my family did not trust the government for nothing. Part of them were Old South, and they remembered, you know, their parents had been alive during Reconstruction, and they didn't trust the banks. They didn't trust anything. In fact, there was a great uncle that he would always say that Yankee banker. All bankers were Yankee bankers to him, you know, and so money was hidden and buried in the yard. A lot of times around a lot of these old homesteads, you get there and it'd be sand around the house out to about, say, 10, 12 yards out. There wasn't a blade of grass. They would get out there and sweep it with a broom and get rid of the grass. Well, it was a perfect place to dig down, bury something, put sand on it, and just swish it with the broom, and it's gone. But you knew it was 5 steps off the front step, and you knew where it was at. And so I remember an old homestead being torn down when I was in my 30s, and they had come in and tore the old place down, burned it off, and then they were going to take and remove the foundation, which is blocks and rocks stacked up. There was no foundation under it. And I told the gentleman that had the place, I said, you know, before you do that, I'd get a metal detector and walk around in this old yard and see if there's anything buried. because people would bury stuff like this and bury it under the house and stuff like that. So you may want to do that. Well, he got his kid, and they went out there with a metal detector, and he found 6 different mason jars, had coins and all kinds of stuff. That was the bank from who had been way back when. I think the highest date he found on a coin was like 1940. So that stuff had been in the ground for 60, 70 years. So people really did not trust the banks and did not trust the government at all. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sage, yeah, burying underground for cooling and stuff. Yes. I helped a friend back in the 80s. He went and built a house, reinforced, and then he mounted up and made a hill over it where there was a skylight bringing light in. But he did it for storms down here because of hurricanes. He had had 2 houses taken out by hurricanes. And this time he wasn't doing it. And so he just buried the house. He made it a mound, like a hobbit hole. And when you were inside, you couldn't tell it was not a regular house. But it was very easy to heat and cool because it was a constant temperature. There was about 3 feet of dirt all the way over. And he just planted centipede grass on it, which goes out instead of up. And so it was this nice green dome, and he had a couple of those little bitty small nanny goats that were about 3 feet tall, full grown, that were pets. And that was their job, was to eat the grass. And, it really is a viable idea. And to be honest with you, I've thought many times about building an underground home up here and just setting it up that way. Edgar Burleyman, wire moras that are $12 come to shave and sharpen. $100 knives do not. Liability. Bottom line. The $12 knives, their moras are being made over, and that's the everyday working utility knife. One of the most common knives you're going to find in a kitchen drawer anywhere in Europe is a mora. So it is the knife. You see so much, not just bushcraft, but uses. And so they're made to a high quality. On the other hand, here in America, you're a custom knife maker and you're going to make somebody a custom Bowie, let's say, and you deliver that sucker razor sharp and that guy cuts himself and he sues you. So they're never that sharp when you get them because A, much time it takes for him to sharpen it, and B, he wants product liability. No, it was not super sharp. It was just regular, because if you make a honed edge, where it is truly honed, that way you can just take your thumb and touch it and you're cut. I mean, it isn't a little, you won't even feel it go in. I use a more of a robust working edge, but I have made polished edge. And oh my God, Homer, over here in Mississippi, a great cook, great guy. He's part of him and Donnie run together, and he makes polished edge knives, and you're cutting, you don't know it. So whenever his stuff's almost artwork, but when he gets done, you can hold a piece of paper in the air and let go and slice the paper in the air before it hits the ground, with you not holding it. So that sharp, yeah, you can hurt yourself, and they don't want liability. Andrew, what's a good capper for the 51 Navy? The 3D printed stars that hold 6 caps are very good. Go online or just look around and look for a star capper, 3D printed. And I picked up like 5 from a dealer off of eBay or something like that for like 15 or 16 bucks. And if you're looking for one for starting out because you're getting new into it, great way to do it. These to work. Inline cappers, if you modify them a little bit, if you go like Dixie Gun Works or whatever and look up inline capper, it's going to be a long brass tube about this big with a little slider on it. And at the end, there's a little bitty spring, and so you've got to shoot on the back like that, and the spring comes up and the cap comes up in here and it holds it. The tip of this is too long to use on a cap and ball revolver. So if you take a file and take this down just a little bit where that spring is about even with it, you can cap and ball revolver. So I use an inline in mine. And I'm going to be doing a video, hopefully in the next month or so, of showing you how to make a belt pouch carry to carry paper cartridges and stuff. I'm going to show how you modify a inline capper and how I take 45 Colt brass and make a carrier to carry 6 of the ammunition available. So when I pop the snap, I can pull and reload real quick, and a safety tool to make sure I can block the hammer and safely load without having to uncap the gun. And so that'll be coming up in a future video. So just hang loose. We'll talk about that. Sean, yeah, never thought about liability. Absolutely. When you're talking about any kind of manufacturing, you got to be a liability. Although I did, one of the funniest things to me was somebody said that he was a lawyer and that any corporation could be sold for their product malfunctioning. And I said, do you deal with clients posthumously? And he said, no, why would I ever do that? Well, if a parachute doesn't work, you're dealing posthumously, correct? The family may sue you, but he ain't suing you. So, you know, parachute manufacturers weren't going to get sued by the person. They'll get sued by the family. Andrew, War Eagle, sir. Edgar Berlin, I want to make some piezoelectric rifle primers and click button lighters there. Remington brought out in the 1970s, 50 years ago, they brought out a electric ignition rifle. It was a bolt action, and I think the calibers were 270, 308, and 30-06, I think. And there was no primer on the back of it. It was flat brass. Inside of it, on the inside of the case, was a plate with 2 thin needles that touched through it. So if you got the light right, you could see the light. Okay. The bolt did not have a firing pin or anything. It pushed it up and it simply made contact with the back of it. In the buttstock of the rifle was the battery. It ran to the trigger, which was a spring held back switch. When you touched the contacts, the juice went through, zapped, and would arc across and detonate the cartridge. Yay, verily, bang. It did not sell well, even though it was a light year advancement for all kinds of things. One, a trigger is a mechanical device, and you pulling it had a certain feel. This was pushing a button. It was like flipping a light switch, and it was just so radical a change in design for the shooters of that day that were used to triggers to go to a switch that didn't have any feedback, no feel. You simply went and hit it. The guns didn't sell, but they've had for 50 years the idea of a piezoelectric ignition system. Militaries have looked at it to make ammunition that would only work in their gun, so you couldn't capture ammunition and use it against them, that type of deal. And it just hasn't run. It's one of them great ideas that their time just hadn't come. Yeah, that's the whole problem. Anytime you're doing a radical change in anything, you're fighting an uphill battle. The first person through the gate gets bloody every time. Remember a couple of years ago, they brought out ceramic knives. It's a glass knife. It's a ceramic knife. Holds an edge fantastic. And the vast majority of knives in a kitchen setting or whatever go dull because you're cutting on a plate or some hard surface. And that's how you dull the knife. You should always use a cutting board or a plastic or something like that, so that the steel knife is tougher and will not be dulled by it. But you're cutting on a kitchen plate, going tack, 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 tack. And you wonder why everybody buys new steak knives every year. It's because that ceramic plate's a whole lot tougher and stronger than that steel knife, and it just beats the edge to pieces. Well, they came out with ceramic knives that were super tough and etc. And man, they work great. Disadvantage: you don't own anything that you can sharpen it with. Eventually, when it does get dull, 5 years from now, whatever, you have to send it back to the factory, and they got to use a laser to sharpen it. There's nothing you can pick up at a store, not even a diamond hone, will sharpen it. It's that hard. And so you would think when those came out that everybody would just ditch steel knives and immediately, especially in kitchens and stuff, shift over to these ceramic knives and just have that as a knife. And it just hadn't caught on that well. You know, I'm sure whoever came up with that had a great idea, a better mousetrap, but on the same side of that fence, the cost of it that they had to lay out to bring it to market, and then it didn't sell that way. The people that want it gonna buy it up front, and then you end up with a warehouse full of knives nobody wants. And so maybe one day, 5 years, 10 years from now, whatever. Same thing with our witchcraft, bushcraft. Somebody comes up with a radical. When William Collins came out with the woodsman's grind, he calls it, for his knife designs. It was so radically different and distinct and innovative. The vast majority of knife people just dismissed it as forget it, wouldn't even look at it. When we went to Blade Show, the judges, when they went to look at the WCSK, just dismissed it out of, just wouldn't even look at it because it was too radical an idea for them. You know, it didn't look like what they had in their mind this traditional knife should look like. It's not what their idea was. The fact that it could run circles around their knife was irrelevant. And at our booth, our table there at Blade Show, we were letting people pick them up and try them. We brought wood and soft sugar pine. So here, you pick it up, start whittling, try it out. And the look on people's faces of, what? And he said, yeah, pick it up, try it. We ain't scared. Go ahead. And people are walking around looking at these thousands of dollar knife that, you know, they're having to wear gloves just to pick it up and look at it. We're saying, here, pick it up, try it. We got a lot of sales out of that because we weren't afraid for somebody to try it. But once they did pick it up and they did, oh, well, I see, yeah, that's one of those things. You got to have a tactile. You got to have it. So new innovative design gets beat up. I'm so grateful that William has become so successful with his, and that the WCSK has been such a successful design that him, me, and Dan put so many hours in troubleshooting and coming up with that, where that's William's design, but me and Dan helped out in real world feedback and things like that. And I'm very, very proud for what William's done. But to get recognized and to be making such a thing, such a radical design change from everything else, man, that's hard. That is an uphill battle right there. And I just got nothing but respect for everything he's done. Hola, Hang Tough. Thank you. The Marpart tarp is because behind me you're gonna see nothing but gear. It's where all somebody asks, "What, Blakey? Why are you putting up the tarp?" Well, I'm doing it because it's a bunch of packs, a bunch of storage bins, a bunch of everything else. This one's got bank line in it, and this one's got projects in it, and this one's got small hammocks in it, and this has got whatever. And it's just, when I did a video with this with a couple of friends, and we are just talking, and half of them go, "Blackie, in the upper right corner, what is that? Blackie, right up, what is that?" And y'all ain't listening to me. You're looking at the gear going, "Blackie, what is that?" You know, and all my WC knives are over here somewhere hanging up. Is that the such? it's gear show time. So this way, you're talking to Blackie instead of Blackie. What is that in that box down there? So that's why the Martark's back there. But I appreciate it. We got about 15 minutes left. We're going to call it quits. So anybody got any questions? Now's the time to ask, guys. Hang Tough just did 6 nights in the woods. Awesome. If you can get out and enjoy it, now is the time. The second week of September is when the cold snap always hits just about every year. And so back in June, I said, I think I said like 15 weeks or whatever. I calculated 15 weeks to go. Well, next week is when I had plotted, and they're saying my nightly lows are going to be down in the low 60s. It's going to be a 10 to 15 degree cooler night. You dang right. If I can, I'm going to be in the woods. I want to be in my hammock and enjoy that. It's going to feel like it's in the 40s after coming out of all the heat of the summer. Right now, I'm heat acclimated. And so going out in the cool will be just 60 will be just heaven. Now flip it. And in March, when I'm used to nights that get down in the 20s and 30s, 60s will be the daytime high, and that'll be warm then. Now it's cool. So. Edgar, do I like beer? No, sir. I never developed a taste for beer. I was a Scotch drinker. I drank Scotch, White Lightning, things like that. I am not a party drinker. Of course, I did that in my youth like everybody else. I still have a couple of bottles of stuff, and I think I've been working on this 1/5 of really good Scotch for the last 3 years. So I'm not what you'd call a heavy drinker. Okay. But sometimes when the weather change is happening, guys, and these old bones, I've had really over 35 broken bones in my life. If it was dumb and stupid and the girls thought it was cool, I had to do it. When the barometric pressure dropped from like 31 point something down to 29 point something, every old break hurts. Just the ache, and I don't want to have to take medication for it. So I'll come in, I'll take a stiff pull on something strong and go to sleep. So to me, it's more medicinal than anything else. What did I do when I was a young man? Anything that made money and took care of the family. Oh boy. I worked in factories. I worked odd jobs. I worked in grocery stores. I was a delivery driver. I worked on a ranch as a cowboy, riding a horse, working fences, working cattle for a while. I worked in the back of an 18-wheeler a lot. My daddy was a trucker. And so I did a lot of industrial work in 18-wheelers and stuff like that. I did just whatever. Worked at a gas station. I mean, if it was a job, it paid money, I was willing to do it. Came up poor. And so if you wanted it, you went out and got it. Mom and dad ain't got the money. So if you want a car, you got to go earn the money. If you want that new rifle, you got to earn the money. And so that's what I did. It's just whatever. I won't bore you with how many jobs I've had in my life. The bottom end, like I said, I've worked gas stations, whatever. Top end, I was a district manager for a multi-billion-dollar company. I've worked for military contractors producing military equipment and stuff like that. I've been a truck driver. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. TBOR-101. Go look on my channel and do a search for the hat question, and I will tell you exactly what you want to know about that hat. It's a Boy Scout hat, and I think they still make them. You can get one of this one I got in the mid 90s as a replacement for one almost identical to it that was a Stetson that I had this pair. Yeah, Sean, you can actually get outside and breathe. Amen. In August, you can feel the air going in and out of your lungs. It's so hot and so humid, and every breath of air is just like, guys don't understand. Up north, in the winter when you walk out in the morning and you take that breath and you feel the cold air going in and out of your lungs, well, that's the hot air we feel down here in the south. Hot, humid air going in and out of your lungs. The thing is, up north, you breathe for 5 or 6 minutes outside, and it kind of goes away. You don't notice it. It don't go away down here. You feel every breath outside, away from the air conditioning, that hot air going in and out of your lungs. That's really when September hits, that first cool day, and we're like, it's just unbelievable. We made it. Have I had any trouble getting black powder or percussion cap? Yep, like everybody else. I've got a pretty good powder supply that I've still got. But caps, I found Mid-South Shooter Supply back last year. They had them in stock, and I bought 1,000 caps. When I buy caps, I'm only buying about 1,000. I have not experimented with the type of cap. I've seen it used, and I thought about getting one and playing with it, but I just go and buy in bulk whenever I'm going to buy caps, because I make my own bullets, like lead and all like that. Gunpowder, I've made my own black powder in the past. It's a whole lot of work. I'd rather just buy it if I can, but keep that skill for times get tough. Taco 517, 60. I'm about to be 60. Feels like far. Favorite fish to catch, brim. Sunfish for some of you in other places, but brim down here. And we have variation. There's bluegill, there's shell cracker, there's red bones, there's all kinds of names, but it's variations of sunfish. That and bass. Catfish is a better meal producer, and if I'm going for trout lines and stuff, it's going to be catfish, because with catfish I can process it in fillets and get more meat per fish. But for taste, I prefer brim. Easy, about so big, perfect size. Throw into an old U.S. Army mess kit and use that as a fry pan. That's one of my favorite fish frying pans. On a fire is a bed of coals, a couple of rocks, set up an old U.S. Army mess kit, lock in a wooden handle so it don't close up, and put peanut oil in it, and then put fish in it, sprinkle a little bit of lemon juice on it as it's cooking. Yeah. Oh, favorite meat to hunt? Probably squirrel, to be honest. That's relaxing to me. Deer is business. Hog is business, because once he's on the ground, the processing starts. The hunt's just not even half of it. But squirrels and stuff, clean them real quick, about a minute each. Boom, they're done. And then boil them up with rice, or squirrel and rice, squirrel and gravy, squirrel and taters, squirrel and corn. You ever done a boil like you think of, where it's potatoes and corn and shrimp, and then throw a couple cut up squirrel in there too? That is actually pretty good. Like, I don't put all the hot spices in it, but I do a boil like that, and it's really good. Squirrel's one of my favorites. Ever ate a snapping turtle? I have eaten turtle several times. It ain't my favorite. Turtles ain't my favorite. One, they're a pain to clean. Um, and all reptile. I know somebody's going, what it tastes like. All reptiles taste alike to me. So snake, alligator, turtle, iguana, all of them taste to me, my taste buds, it tastes kind of like pork loin, although the meat, when cooked, looks like white chicken meat, chicken breast. And the mouthfeel is kind of like chicken breast, but to me, the taste of it is more like sort of a pork loin. It's just how my taste buds are. I've had people say it tastes like chicken or whatever, but really to me, it tastes like pork loin. And you've got 4 different types of meat on a turtle. There's a dark meat, light meat, etc. But it's just so much work, and I usually avoided. Be honest with you, avoided them because there's so much work to clean. What is black powder, charcoal, or gunpowder, and why bullets so expensive? Uh, Black powder is made up of three components: sulfur, saltpeter, and charcoal in a mix. Now, there are other things that can be substituted for that to create a gunpowder. Um, and why are bullets so expensive? Because they're in such high demand right now. The shooting industry has expanded greatly. For the last several years, you've had like 3 million firearms sold per month, and that's just from the ATF statement. And so the guns are in demand. Why can't we get percussion caps? The same assembly line that makes percussion caps would be making small pistol primers, and those are much more profitable to make small pistol primers than it is to make your percussion cap. Same thing for the gun industry. I mean, the powder industry. Why would I want to make a smokeless powder that's meant for black powder guns like Pyrodex, 777, etc., when I could make gunpowder for ARs or 9mm, whatever, because the demand is just unbelievable right now. And so, from the manufacturer point of view, you're kind of the odd guy out. It's like I was watching on somebody and said, why haven't they come out with any new overdrive transmission for Model A's? They have. There is actually an overdrive transmission for a Model A built in the 1930s. It's a modern manufacturer, but it's not a high demand. Not many. There are a lot of people out there got Model A's, so to speak, but I don't see anybody developing a new hot rod header to go into a Model A. Original motor type deal. And so that's where they look at our percussion guns. It's a nice novelty, but they'd rather produce small pistol primers than produce our percussion caps. They would rather produce their stuff rather than our powder. And the GoX factory burned. Now, another company has picked it up, and they just haven't got into production yet to make actual black powder available again down here at a decent price. But a lot of military government contracts still use black powder as propellant in certain naval shells and artillery shells and stuff like that. It's a component of it, so it's not going to go away. Even though we're in the modern times, it's still the best powder in certain things. And so there will be gunpowder made up. It's just getting around to it. Trace, yes. I've been thinking hard about doing that, about the survival shotgun. I've got chamber inserts for 38 special and 9mm that work very, very well. Loading the shells cheaply. I'll show you a trick of using a 1/4-inch drive socket set to reload shotgun shells on a stump with a nail, and powder wadding and stuff like that. And yeah, I'll do a survival shotgun here pretty soon. We can do that. I'm pretty sure I can get away with that on YouTube, it being a single shot shotgun. Even though I'm going to be using a 9mm insert or a 38 insert. And when I designed the Blackbird haversack, the strap I've showed several times, it was where I could either put a blade down into the strap. I could also drop my inserts in there for my shotgun. So if I'm carrying my shotgun, I can drop those inserts in there and utilize them. And that opens up a whole new world on that shotgun, being able to use another caliber in it for small game hunting or stuff like that. And I'm here to tell you from practical experience, guys, a good 9mm hollow point out of a deer stand at archery range, 20-25 yards, will drop a white-tailed deer out of a single shot shotgun if you can place your bullet. Very effective. The 9mm has a problem of over penetration, and standard, hardball has like 36 inches of penetration in medium. Well, the deer chest cavity is like that, So yeah, as long as it'll penetrate and do the job, a good hollow point, it's a very viable hunting tool and very close range. Remember archery and being feed the family sneaky, get in there. Yeah, very handy. Well, guys, I think that's about it. I really, honestly, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and doing this. I'm going to try to do this as a Thursday night, every Thursday night thing in memory of Dan. So to honor and remember Dan, I'll try to do Dan's Thursday night shows, okay, on this channel. We shall see. So I will always announce on my Facebook um, that I'm going to be doing it on Thursday night. If I'm going to have to cancel for whatever reason, I'll try to do a video and post it up letting y'all know we're not going to do it so you don't waste your time. But if y'all like this Thursday night, seems to be a good time frame for you, this same time of 7 p.m. Central to about 9, we'll give it a try. I really appreciate all the feedback, guys. I really thank you for all the questions and thank you for all the support. And that's 2 hours and 25 seconds. So we made it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Please leave any more comments you want to do. I'll go back and read all of them. And if you want to send me questions on Facebook, I'm Blackie Thomas on Facebook. For those of you that might not know, just holler at me and I'll be glad to answer your questions anytime I can. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.